McGowan, Shannon, with you. Jamie Campbell joins us. Part two of this epic program on the Toronto Blue Jays. Kikuchi's performance yesterday was great, but isn't it interesting? He almost is the number one pitcher on staff right now, and this. I'm telling you, you might say that. I know we love Manoa. We love the
Maybe it's
starting
the
rotation,
opposition,
especially the top of it. But who's been better than him?
Kevin
Not
Gosman?
many.
No, you're right. It's fascinating. It's fascinating where he's come.
This is a guy who couldn't be in the starting rotation last year.
He was
a major leaguer.
Yeah, but there's and I love talking to Caleb about Kikuchi because they teamed together in Seattle in Kikuchi's final year, and Caleb was a backup catcher there for a time. And his point about Kikuchi is that the kid has incredible stuff. It's that some days he just doesn't have the conviction to throw it. Mm-hmm. And I think it's pretty obvious if you watch his starts a year ago. I mean, this 97 mile an hour fastball that no one could get to, he just had no belief in. And he fell in love with it. He fell in love with the slider that ended up getting mashed because he'd leave it out over the plate. And now you're seeing this fascinating sort of mix of the two. And I know in yesterday's start, he had a little bit of a hard time commanding the heater in the early part of the game. But but my oh my, once he starts the spotting is 97 miles an hour, he's a pretty tough guy to hit.
I'll tell you the thing that I used to look at, and I respect the club for doing this, but this team did everything it could to give him the opportunity to be a great pitcher, because I think they believed that there's more in this. They looked at his stuff and said, this is really good. We got to figure out how to get this guy to this level. And it appears that they have been able to. So this, in my mind, this was a team thing. This is a team not giving up on this guy, that if it was almost anybody else, he'd have been in Buffalo or worse, or would have been released. Mm. And it wasn't because of money, I don't think. I know you guys getting $10, $12 million a year, whatever he's getting. Wow. Yeah. That's not bad, but that's not big money in terms of a starting pitcher. Somebody on this staff knew that this guy could be great.
So the change clearly took place between the ears. Mm-hmm.
I get it, but you got to make that change, right?
Yep. The stuff was never a concern. It was the conviction to throw it. Right. And I've heard this, suggestion even in reference to Dalton Varsho. And that is that you sign Kikuchi, you bring him over from what at the time was a non-contending Seattle Mariners team. Right. And you put him on staff on a team that is supposed to challenge for the division in what is the toughest division in baseball, and you pay him more money than he's ever seen before. As much as we expect these athletes to be like robots, that is probably something that's not easy to manage. And then throw in the challenge of a language barrier, which he's really beautifully overcome. At the start of this year, he is very conversational in English now, and I was petrified to approach him last year for that very reason, because I knew there had to be the interpreter somewhere around. And someone said to me, I wonder if Varsho's feeling exactly that, in that you take him from a non-contending Arizona team where he was batting 6th and 7th, and you put him on a contending team in the toughest division in baseball, and you ask him to hit 4th. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And whether or not they can perform at a level that you're expecting them to perform at while having to think about all that stuff is the greater challenge. And clearly it's something that Kikuchi's been able to overcome. And last check, it seems Varsho's overcoming it too.
The thing about Kikuchi is, and to Bob's point, is, I mean, I went to a few games last year and where he started, and for 2 innings, he was electric. For 2 innings, you talk about the fastball. It was there. 3rd inning, there was nothing there. The 3rd inning, he fell apart. And I mean, after the first 2 innings, you say, well, eureka, he's over the hump. And then the 3rd inning would come and he was just tremendously bad.
but usually third inning means second time through the order, and that's when all the thinking starts taking place.
Right.
And there are some that just can't handle that aspect of the game. Is okay, I retired the first 9, now I got to see them again, depending on who they are. Aaron Judge, DJ LeMahieu, whoever it might be you're facing that day. And some can't get past that part of, okay, I retired this guy on a fastball down and away in the first inning. I got to see him a third time. How am I going to get him out this time? And there are some that just, don't process that kind of information very well. And that might have been the case. I love, it's so easy to know when he's going well, when things are coming out of the hand pretty easily, because he's dancing off the mound. He's got that little hop and skip after a good pitch or a strikeout.
You can only imagine, though, after the pressure in this town, even if he doesn't understand the language very well in that first year, and the fact that he became the target of so much criticism, for him to have this start must be such a treat for him.
Oh,
I mean, the weight off his shoulders alone. I'd be doing the little skip and a jump off the mound too.
Yeah. Oh,
look, there wasn't anybody in this town who loved the idea of Kikuchi being a starter on the Blue Jays this year.
No.
This is a team that you thought could be a World Series team. And the hope in everybody was, if you want to put Kikuchi in the bullpen, let's see how he does there. But you can't start him. You can't have him start every 5th day, because we had seen what happens when that happens. And this is a guy who's 5-0, on top of the league. His ERA is pretty good too. It's in the 3-something. What the turnaround has been, remarkable, nothing short of remarkable by this guy.
Yeah. How concerned are you about Manoah, Jamie?
Not as much as some, I don't think. I think Alec's going to be a work in process or in progress. My opinion is, one, he's never going to be, that dominant swing and miss, 97, 98 that Kevin Gausman is, and that ridiculous splitter. So that's never going to be Alek Manoah. Alek Manoah is going to have to be one of those thinking man's pitchers, who's got an array of pitches and an obvious conviction as well. I mean, and here's a guy who stands on the mound and doesn't feel that he should ever lose, which is a great trait to have, quite obviously. I don't really worry about him, but I also know that he's working through something right now, in part due to the fact that after a year and change, the major leagues have a good sense of who he is, mm-hmm. and have a good sense of what to expect. So now they've made that adjustment to him. And I think this year is his time to learn how to adjust to what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I think you're right. The thing that concerns me, though, is velocity. Because this is a guy who last year was 94, 95, 96 on a regular basis. And now he's 91, 92 on a regular basis.
Not all the time, though, right? Not all the time. He sits around 92, 93, but you'll notice as he gets into second, third, and fourth inning, he can get it up to 95. Right? Well, it's there.
But he was throwing 95 all the time before, and he's not anymore. Why not?
Don't know. I said to Caleb the other day, it's amazing to look at a guy that is built the way he's built, mm-hmm. and then compare him physically to, say, Jordan Romano, who's taller and leaner and can throw 97 without thinking about it, and Alek Manoah physically looks like a guy who should be able to touch 98, 99 without a problem, but doesn't.
No, right.
Which is why he's got to be a speed changer the way Chris Bassett is. He's got to be a guy who's getting greater depth on his slider, which was a problem, right? The slider was flattening out, and it was running into the barrel of whether it was a righty or a lefty, depending on where it was ending up, and that was an issue. And then he's got that two-seam fastball that runs in on lefties but leaks out to the barrel if it doesn't have enough of a dive in it, and that was an issue too. So a lot of it was the execution of the pitches was the problem, and not just the pitches themselves.